B-22 Osprey has just been sent out to do a recce pass to guide the Warbirds into the beach. Look at that! Give them a wave. They can look down and see you. Has just released the Osprey to go back to Thunderbolt. And we're now waiting the aircraft from the American Air Power Museum. We will see a number of different aircraft representing World War II airplanes and the men that flew them. One is a twin-engine airplane. As we look, air raid, an air mission that ever took place. If you look low and to the left, if you're far enough out on the beach, you might be able to see them working their way in. From my vantage point, I'm seeing a couple of specks out there. They'll be coming through, I'd say, within 3 or 4 minutes. We'll see an F4U Corsair, I believe. 12,571 of those were built. The longest production run of any single engine piston fighter in World War II, from 1940 to the last one coming off the line in early 1953, according to the history books I've read. And I have different numbers than you have, depending on whose history books you read. Well, then you are right. The B-17 with 4 1,200 horsepower engines on it, the Flying Fortress, one of the heavy bombers from World War II. From the Yankee Air Museum at Ypsilanti, Michigan. Was Hap Arnold's airplane. Army Air Force General Hap Arnold. The North American T-6 trainers with their 600 horsepower engines. Hopefully we'll see a P-40 Warhawk. It was known by the Royal Air Force as the Kitty Hawk. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the fighters, the Mustang, the Kitty Hawk, or the Tomahawk, if you will, in the Corsair. A TBM Avenger in trails are coming across right almost 3,000 feet fly. more importantly, our men, fighting men and women, needed. That raid was the raid against all other air missions before and since. Participated in the final toast for the Doolittle Raiders, opening up a bottle of cognac, which has been around for many, many years. Coming in front of us right now is the TBM Avenger, or the TBF as it was initially known, built by the Drummond Iron Works right here on Long Island. Not only did Drummond build it as the TBF Avenger, but it was also built in great numbers by General Motors, as did many different companies during World War II. Got out of their own business and participated in the war effort. General Motors did it as the TBM Avenger. The B-17, the Yankee lady you can see up to the left, that was doing the dropping of the watermelons earlier. That's from the Yankee Air Museum at Willow Run Airport in Ypsilanti, Michigan. We've seen a P-51 Mustang, the F4U Corsair, and coming across the row in front of us at Show Center, the North American Texan trainers, the advanced trainers that taught tens of thousands of in which tens of thousands of cadets earned their wings in World War II. High above, flown by Dameo, is the F4. Coming through right now. One of the most unique ones, I do believe that's Scott Yoak in an aircraft known as Quicksilver. And a 17-year restoration done by Scott and his late father, Bill Yoak, has given us a remarkable example of one of over 15,000 Mustangs that were built and about 160 or so flying today. Next through, the B-40 Warhawk, built by Curtiss. Both of these airplanes, the Mustang and the Curtiss Warhawk, had V12 engines. Coming through now. I had to take my headset off to make sure I was hearing it right. That's a T-28 Trojan from, as a tribute. The Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress, known as the Model 299 before it went into... It was flown by Colonel Robert Morgan and his crew, the first air crew to complete 25 minutes of the 12,700 of those that were built. Again, the B-25 coming through. It was designed for bombing from medium altitudes. It ended up being used extensively in other theaters, but particularly in the Pacific Theater of Operations, as a low-level strafing aircraft. And rather than having a bombardier navigator in the front with a plexiglass nose, they changed it, loaded it up with 8 or 10 50-caliber machine guns in the nose, put some more 50-caliber machine guns on blister packs on the side of the fuselage, and it gave it a total of about, I think, 18 total guns on it, including the top turret, the waist gunners, and the tail gun, and made it an amazingly potent strafing airplane. One particular model was actually modified with a 75mm cannon in the nose of the B-25 Mitchell bomber. The legend is that the airplane stopped briefly powerfully when that cannon fired that huge projectile out of the nose. The Avenger flown by George Herbert Walker Bush in World War II. He was shot down, and President George Herbert Walker Bush, 41st President of the United States, flew this aircraft when he was still just a teenager. Here come the North American Texans. The Navy called it the SNK. The Air Force called it the AT-6, or Advanced Trainer Number 6. 600 horsepower motors on the front, and upwards of 15,000 of these were built and flown not only by our United States military, but by the Royal Air Force, the Royal Canadian Air Force, and nearly 30 other allied nations. The Royal Air Force called it the Warbird, and prior to America's entry into World War II, we were supplying aircraft to the Royal Air Force, and there were laws that said you cannot supply a military aircraft from a neutral country, which the United States was until December 8th of 1941, into a combatant country. So these aircraft would be flown from their manufacturing bases, like the T-6 was built in Texas, flown up to the border at places like Holton, Maine. They'd be stopped. They would be towed by a tractor right across the border into Canada to a flying field there, and then they would be launched and taken to their training bases under an act called the Lend-Lease Act, where they weren't given to the countries, but they were used by the countries. Take a look now as we see the P-47 Thunderbolt coming through. From Republic aircraft built here on Long Island, that's the one closest to us, and the P-40 Warhawk higher and away. All of these aircraft from the American Air Power Museum located at Republic Airport in Farmingdale, and brought to you by the Bethpage Credit Union and Cockpit USA. And check Cockpit aircraft capability. And I want you to take a look at this, because you've got a 2,000 horsepower motor and could reach speeds in excess of 415 miles per hour. It was a very fast aircraft, and it was also the type of aircraft that was featured in a television show many years ago, back in 1976 to 1978. And if you turned on your television show, you'd hear about the exploits of a Marine Corps unit that flew this. The Corsair is a land-based aircraft. As a fighter in the Pacific, it was called the Black Sheep Squadron, or Bob Black Sheep, and this is what you'd hear when that show began. We are poor little lamb, who has lost Initially designed to be blown off an aircraft carrier, the pilot sat so far back in the fuselage because of that big 2,000 horsepower motor and the propeller that had a diameter of 13 feet 6 inches that he was having trouble landing on the deck of a carrier, so it was assigned to Marine Corps units in the Pacific. That's Dan Dameo on the controls. Let's watch him as he rolls the airplane over on its back. Look at the tip wing. Built by Transcon Corporation. They had to have a very long landing gear to keep that huge propeller from striking the deck of the carrier during those punishing landings. And so they bent the wing down those punishing landings. Now, from this, look to the left, listen to the difference in sound as we listen to the Mustang. Over the south, from West Virginia, Scott Yoak flying the Mustang, known as Quicksilver. The stripes you see on that P-51 Mustang were known as invasion stripes. On the D-Day invasion of Normandy, France, German held France on June 6th of 1944. There was a huge invasion by Allied forces of the beaches of Normandy. And in order to keep our own guys from shooting down our own planes, they put painted stripes on all the airplanes so they wouldn't be shot down and have friendly fire incidents. For about 17 years, and we lost Bill McCaster just about 2.5 years ago. And we miss him a lot, but Scott continues to carry on in this incredible airplane that actually has historical roots going back to a request by the Royal Air Force's British Purchasing Commission for North American, who was building their trainers to build a P-40 Warhawks, and the folks in North America said, give us 120 days, we'll build you another airplane. And that is the airplane that came out of it. The last models of which, the P-51H, actually reached a speed of 487 miles per hour. Both the Mustang and the Corsair not only saw service in World War II, but during the Korean conflict as well.